Thanksgiving is usually a day where people come together and express their gratitude. But what is Thanksgiving for families who left their home country and moved to the US? I recently had a chance to interview two people to ask them that. The first was my father, a Vietnam native who fled his country 20 years ago to bring his family to America. The second was my friend Karen Rosendahl, who moved from Europe to America when she was a young girl. So what do you remember from your first Thanksgiving?
About 20 years ago, very surprised when we celebrated Thanksgiving the first time in the US. Oh, so much food, but special thing with the turkey that the American tradition celebrate Thanksgiving. We never ate turkey before, but the first time I saw the turkey on the American tradition.
Who did you have your first Thanksgiving with?
With my family. When my family came to the US, when we escaped from Vietnam, we are refugees, and when we live in the refugee camp with very little food, but when we came to US to celebrate the Thanksgiving, oh my, too much food. And at that time we celebrate the Thanksgiving with some relatives. That's the first year that we meet again our relatives. He came to the US by boat also.
Where did you first learn about Thanksgiving?
By news, and especially when we lived in a refugee camp, we never knew about that. But when we came to the US, lots of people talk about the Thanksgiving because that is American tradition. So we have to learn that that is when the first American had a good harvest. So they want to remembering about the God had gave to the American people. So the American people have to remember that to celebrate every year for Thanksgiving.
What were you thankful for at that time?
Especially for us, we escaped from the Vietnamese communists, and America has accepted us. So the first thing that we have to thank America first and follow the American tradition for the good harvest for American people.
What were you thankful for this year?
Oh, this year, like every other year, we celebrate the Thanksgiving every year for over 20 years now, every year. So that is a good time to see the people celebrate the Thanksgiving, and the people have a chance to meet each other, meet the relative, and cousin meet cousin, brother meet sister. Very good.
So where were you originally from before you moved to America?
My family is from Holland, but they lived in England for 8 years first before we moved to the US. My parents both grew up in Holland. So.
Did you have any prior knowledge of what Thanksgiving was before moving here?
Not really. Not that I know of. I know that me and my siblings didn't, but we were also young. I don't think my parents really knew anything either, though.
Do you remember what you did the first Thanksgiving you were here?
I don't remember, but I did ask my mom. I've asked my mom a few times because I was curious. Apparently, the first Thanksgiving we just kind of didn't do much. Like, we had the days off school, so I think we might have actually gone on a vacation the first year because we're like, hey, we have a long weekend. And so, but of course it was really busy everywhere because everyone was visiting family. But yeah, the first year we didn't celebrate it at all. We just kind of spent some time with the family. So.
What do you do for Thanksgiving now?
I think that now we pretty much have what I think is a traditional American Thanksgiving, but then again I've never partaken in any other Thanksgiving. Because through the years we've kind of just adjusted. I mean, like through family, friends and stuff, learning their traditions, and we're like, hey, okay. So and we pretty much just spend some time with the family. My mom cooks up the regular stuff, some turkeys, some sweet potatoes, corn, all the good stuff. And, I mean, we don't see any relatives, obviously, because they're in Europe still. But, we play some family games and stuff, and we always take the day after Thanksgiving to go get our Christmas tree.
Where did your family learn about the Thanksgiving traditions?
I think it mostly came from our neighbors, because they were all pretty interested, knowing that we had moved here from Europe. A lot of our neighbors had a lot of questions to ask, and I remember my best friend lived across the street, and her parents were all I remember when I was really young, I was probably maybe 5 or 6, that I remember her parents asking me about what we did for Thanksgiving, and I was like, oh, we have a turkey, and they're like, well, don't you have this and this and this, listing off other foods? I'm like, no. Like, oh, you have to have those at Thanksgiving. So then, of course, I'd go home and be like, Mom, can we make this for Thanksgiving? The gingers say it tastes really good. And she'd be like, okay, I'll look up the recipe. So, my mom's always enjoyed cooking and stuff, so. I don't think I actually knew much about, the tradition, why, until I actually, went through school, because I just knew it was a good time to eat.
So when you found out about the Thanksgiving traditions through school, did you ever think about what you were thankful about then?
Yeah. I mean, once I started to actually realize why we were doing it, we still don't, we don't do the thing where we go around each day with something we're thankful for, as a family, but, I think that each of us still think about what we're thankful for once. I mean, I'm sure my siblings realized a lot earlier than I did, because when we moved here, they were already old enough to understand what was going on, but once I learned why it was actually Thanksgiving, I started to actually think about what I was thankful for on that day. But.
And what were you thankful for this year?
This year, I was very thankful just to have my whole family back home again, because we hadn't all been together in a long time because of school and work and stuff. And thankful that we were all getting through school well, and that my brother had found a new job. So just that everyone was healthy and able to be there. It was nice.